Thanks for watching. My name is Ted Sutton, and this is the 5th episode of Ted's Book Talk. Now, before we get started, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and feel free to leave a comment. Not only does it help out the channel, but it also helps out our guests. Today, I am joined by Sean Gray. He is an entrepreneur and a lifestyle coach. He's also the son of one of the Real Estate Guys hosts. But most importantly, he's the author of the book, 22 Without a Clue, which we will be discussing today. Sean, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good, man. How are you?
I'm hanging in there. I'm just happy that 2020 is finally over with.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, I met you on a cruise a few years ago, and hopefully we'll be getting back to normal soon here. And I want to be back on a cruise ship, and hopefully we get there.
We had a fun time, didn't we?
Oh, we definitely did. And those events are really fun because, you're around people that think like you and they push you to do better. And a lot of them are smarter than both of us. So it's good for the young guys to be around those people that we view as mentors, people we can include in our circle, and it helps us grow. But yeah, I always have a great time on those cruise ships.
Definitely. Cool, man. Well, thank you so much for having me. I love what you're doing here, and I'm happy to be here.
Good. Well, yeah, I mean, I appreciate hearing that. It's good to get people on to talk about their work, and it's good because it gives me practice in front of a camera as well. So
that's a valuable skill.
Yeah, it definitely is. So let's just dive right into it. The first part of your book discusses why it's important for young people to find their why. Now, finding your why can be discovered through unfortunate events. And tragically for you, your mom passed away a few years ago. I can't imagine what you went through. I mean, that would take a huge toll on me. So how did her death affect you personally? And did it change your why at all?
Yeah, man, that's obviously losing a parent, losing anybody close to you is a difficult thing to deal with. And it certainly puts a lot of things in perspective for you, right? Life is short, life is precious, life is fragile. And the time that we have here on earth is very small. So why spend that precious time that we have here doing anything that you really don't want to do, right? Things that are negative or bring you down, or that you simply just don't find fulfillment or enjoyment in. And so often young people make long-term commitments and trap themselves in doing things, whether it's a job or a relationship, or make long-term commitments before they really have that context or that bigger perspective. And they get stuck. So for me, when my mom, really when she actually got diagnosed with cancer, that was kind of the big, all right, time is short. How do I really want to spend this? And really went to work on making sure the number one thing for me was being in control of my time. But it certainly changed me. Absolutely. The trivial things became less important. The matters of the heart and the bigger, relationships became a lot more important, a lot less selfish. But yeah, it was a big impact. But again, where that why came for me was with really just realizing that life is short, and you got to go for what you want, or you're never going to have it, and you're going to, end up with regret. And nobody wants that.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. Life is short, it's precious, and it's important to make sure that we're spending the time here wisely. Really awful what happened to you, but fortunately, you have spent it wisely here. You're a positive force. You also, I mean, God, you already wrote a book at such a young age. You're really, you're a role model to a lot of people. Yeah. And, another big thing about your book, hence the title 22 Without a Clue, was that you have a really interesting backstory of what your life was like before you graduated college. Now, I know you're telling me that you wanted to play in the NFL when you grew up. That was a childhood dream of yours. Now, while you made it pretty close, you made it further than most people by playing college ball at Menlo College, but ultimately that came up a little short, and it prompted you to take a different path. Um, and so, for you, being in that situation, what was it like being 22 and without a clue? And what did you do to change that?
Yeah, really, really good question, because that is really the theme of my message. And really what it was, our entire lives we're on a track, right? We're constantly told where to go, how to dress, when to be there, when we can leave, how long our bathroom break, how long our lunch break. Everything is scripted for us, right? From school, sports, religion. We don't have to do much thinking for ourselves, just go through the motions. And my life was that up until graduating college, right? And I was coming towards the end of the road at college. My whole life I was on that track, and then all of a sudden you're floating in space, right? And it's scary. It's a transition time. You have no context of the real world, no real world experience. And for me, my entire life was right going along with that script, and it was primarily headed down a track of football. It was football in school, and that was pretty much my life, right? And once I started to realize that those dreams of making it to the NFL were probably not going to happen, um, I was like lost and confused and uncertain. And what's the future hold? And I don't even know what I want to do. I don't have really no experience. And it's just kind of, and what most people do at that place when they're lost and in that uncertain, scary place, they latch on to somebody else's system, right? Latch on to somebody else, AKA go get a job or plug into somebody else's. They're looking for that structure, right? Because they're not used to this feeling of freedom, really. And that's what it was, what I felt for the first time. My whole life was scripted for me. And then for the first time in my life, I had freedom. And to me, freedom is my highest value, right? And especially when I was younger, I hated being told what to do. I don't know if you're anything like that, but if you told me not to do something, chances are I would probably go and do it just in spite. Right now, I've since grown past that immature motive to act, but nonetheless, you know, um, being in that space of feeling lost can be very scary, and that's how it was for me. So when I got out of school, I was very fortunate to have my mentor ask me a better question. He said, "Sean, most kids are going to get out of school right now, and they're going to say, 'What do I do to make money?'" Right? And unfortunately, they're going to solve that problem because our brains are powerful. They'll solve the problem that we give them, that we give it. So he said, most kids are going to say, "What can I do to make money?" Which makes money the end goal, and it makes doing something, exchanging your time and effort as the means to get there. So the question that he challenged me to ask myself was not what can I do to make money, but what can I build that will afford me the lifestyle that I want to live? Now, lifestyle is the end goal as opposed to money, and building something as opposed to doing something over and over again is how you get there. Right? Sure, both require work, but one requires work in the beginning, and if you build it right, you can reap the benefits of it moving forward. So, not sure if that really answers your question, but I went from that place of 22 without a clue, lost and uncertain, have no idea, to being asked that question: what can I build that will afford me the lifestyle I want to live? Which makes you start to think about, okay, what's the lifestyle I want to live? And then begin with the end in mind and work backwards from there. So that was kind of where I was at in the process that I started to go down when I got out of school.
Very nice. Yeah. And, Robert Kiyosaki talks about that a lot, where people are predetermined on one set path, and then they, the rest of their life is just on that path and they don't stray. But for you, fortunately, you hit the end of the line. You unfortunately weren't able to make it to the NFL. And then you had a mentor there to help you. And ultimately, your objective was it was more about lifestyle as opposed to making money. And that sort of ties into Rich Dad as well, where people make, well, it's where you have money work for you instead of you working for money.
Yep.
um
Yep.
and
And that's a big part of it, because if freedom is your highest goal, like mine was, then the next logical question is, well, what's the fastest path to freedom? And as you know, and what Kiyosaki talks about, right? Financial freedom is when you have more passive income coming in than you have expenses going out. So if passive income is the fastest path to freedom, The next logical question is, okay, well, what's the fastest path to building passive income? Real estate and business have proven to be those two best vehicles, right? Then the next logical question is okay, within business and in real estate, where do I start? And if you don't know that answer, the first place you got to start is getting that education, that knowledge, that mentorship. And that's what, guys like you and me have done, and why we've sought out guys like Kiyosaki to learn from.
Exactly. Totally agree with you 100%, Sean. And a lot of what you just talked about relates to the 7 steps of what it takes to be a successful businessman in your book. I know we talked a lot about surrounding yourself with people who are smarter than you, getting a mentor. But of the people that you've helped and seen, which of the 7 steps do people slip up on the most?
It's funny because you would think it might be the 7th step or developing sales skills, right? But really, what people come to me most for and ask for my help on is how to change their environment, how to find mentors, how to get around the right people, how to build those relationships, and where to go, and that process. So it's funny because environment is so much stronger than will, right? Environment is so much stronger than will. We become the sum total of the 5 we spend most of our time around. Your network is your net worth. All those cliches are cliche because they're true, right? And so changing the people you're around is not always an easy thing to do, because one, you're comfortable with the people that you're used to, right? You have invested a lot of time and potentially other resources into developing those relationships. However, you can't judge your relationships based off of necessarily where they're at, right? But also, where is this relationship leading me, right? Is this person in my life, and not just people, can take inventory of everything. Is this helping me move closer to that lifestyle that I've designed or those end goals? Or is it slowing me down and holding me back? Oftentimes, growth requires change. That's just the natural way of doing things. So changing your environment is one of the best things you can do, if not hands down the best thing you can do. But it's also very difficult to do. And the best way that I have come to learn to go through that process is you don't have to cut people out of your life entirely, because oftentimes the people holding us back are the people who are closest to us, right? Who are, protecting us, or they're holding us back out of love. Really, it's fear, right? But nonetheless, some of those are our closest, our family, our closest friends, and changing those relationships is hard. But you don't have to necessarily cut them out of your life. Some people, maybe you do. I don't know the level of the relationship, but other times, and oftentimes, you only have to change the dynamic of the relationship. You see, Tom Hopkins wrote the foreword on my book, and one thing Tom Hopkins taught me was I never take advice from anyone more messed up than me. Right. So if I'm looking for advice on money, I'm not going to take advice from someone who's in a worse situation than me. If I'm looking advice on being fit, I'm not going to take advice from a fat guy, So it's changing the dynamic of your relationships and picking and choosing what you're allowing that person to have influence on your life.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the same way. My circle has shrunk. I'm a little bit older now, but the people that I've surrounded myself with, fortunately, are people that I view in high regard. And tying into what Tom Hopkins said, a lot of them are people that I can listen to for advice and go out and seek help from them. Your environment's so important, whether it's personal, professional, anything really. Yeah. And it's a big step to take, because there are a lot of people out there who aren't in the best situation, but fortunately there are groups out there, and you or I can be there to sort of put people on the right path.
Exactly. And it doesn't always have to be obviously, if you can get together in person, you can learn on a cellular level and develop relationships on a cellular level. But, there's plenty of communities online that you can engage with and, build relationships that way too. So, but definitely changing your environment and the relationships and the people around you is hands down the number one, I guess, fast track tip, I would say, to speeding up success, like you said, in any area of your life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's a great piece of advice to have. And I do agree that I think it is the most important thing. And, going back to what you said about being online, I mean, we haven't been in person ever since the cruise ship, but we message each other on Instagram. So we're still
Right.
in touch. And a lot of the people I've met on the cruise ship are wonderful. And it's great because I get to be in touch with you guys, even though we're not physically near each other.
Yep. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. So, another thing you talk about in your book is how it's important to have daily habits that can ultimately help you in your life. So, are there any specific habits out there that younger folks like ourselves can adopt to
Yeah.
improve our business life and our personal life?
Yeah, 100%, 100%. Now, there's, there's a couple schools of thoughts when it comes to routine and um, structure, right? And some people operate better with a little bit more freedom in their, day, I guess, if you will. But the, I guess, really the number one habit I would say that I've developed that has helped speed up my success the most is reading. And I know that's probably not what most people want to hear because I trust me, I was that same way. Up until I read Rich Dad Poor Dad when I was 17. The only book I had ever completed was Go Dog Go by Dr. Seuss, and that's about 14 pages long with some big writing and mostly pictures. So I get it. Reading is a chore sometimes, but nowadays, I mean, I read on my iPad and I download the Audible version as well as the written version, and I listen to it as I follow along. Makes it a lot easier. But the reason why I say reading is because readers are leaders, right? You hear that all the time, but it's so true because if you don't put in other ideas into your head, your context never expands, your perspective never expands. You're only looking at it from your perspective. But if you put other people's perspectives, your perspective expands as well as your opportunities. So I think reading um, is a simple habit, simple daily habit, 10 pages a day, 15 minutes a day, whatever goal you set for yourself. But I think reading every single day is something that you can do. And it doesn't take much time, but putting in good ideas. Think about this, right? The compound effect of putting good ideas into your head. If from today moving forward, a year from now, I put in one good idea a day, that's 365 good ideas by this time next year that I have been mind that maybe the guy next to me hasn't, right? And it's not that every single one of those ideas is going to be life changing, but it only takes one. It only takes one good idea and one good relationship to put your life on a whole different trajectory. I mean, think about how many people have read Rich Dad Poor Dad and their entire life changed, right? So I think reading is something simple that everyone can do, and it's available, and it's easy. But what's easy to do is also easy not to do. So having some sort of accountability in there is always helpful.
That's very true. And I'm a big reader as well. I find it interesting because, one, it gets me off of social media. Now, I know that we communicate via social media on occasion, but if you spend too much time on there, it's not a good thing. And it's really not good for your mental health either, especially during these crazy times with COVID and 2020 in general. But reading is really good, Sean, because it does expand your mind. And by reading all these books, like you have, self help, Rich Dad Advisor books, anything, I have learned a lot and it has helped me grow as a person. And more importantly, it puts good things into my brain.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. 100% agree, man.
And speaking of reading, one book that all of you guys should pick up, particularly if you're young or 22 Without a Clue, is 22 Without a Clue by Sean. Now, with that being said, it was a pleasure having you on, and I hope to see you in person sometime in the future.
Yes, brother. Absolutely. We'll make it happen. Pleasure being here. Uh, just final words to whoever's listening and watching this. My number one piece of advice to you is, and this is actually something Kiyosaki told me, follow your heart. Not everybody's going to understand you. Follow your heart. Life is so short. Go after what you want. Follow your heart. And
Sounds
develop
good.
skills. Gotta throw that one in there. Develop sales skills. Such a valuable skill. But man, I loved it. I love being on here. Definitely hope we can connect in person soon. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, next time you're in Tahoe, just hit me up.
Definitely. It'll be soon. It's my favorite place in the world.
Same here. All right. Take care.
Awesome.